Hello and welcome to the Learning Love Podcast. I'm Dr. Mark A. Hicks, author of the book Learning Love. It is possible to build the healthy, happy, thriving relationships you have always wanted. So let's spend some time learning love. Love is the answer. Now all we have to do is explore all the questions. We live in a society that talks a lot about love, but we don't want to just talk about it here. We want to learn how to live it out, how to apply it, how to do it in such a way that we change our lives, our families, our communities, our nation, our world through the work of love that is the answer to all our problems. Today, I want to talk about one aspect of love, and that's one that we've talked about a lot, and it is loving ourselves. But I want to kind of jump to the end. I'm going to talk about what self-love means, what it means to really learn to love ourselves. But I want to get as quickly as I can to what that really looks like. What's the end game? We talk a lot about, and we hear a lot of talk about loving yourself. But if we get there, if we really get there and we do that, what's it going to look like? What difference would it make? What would be the end game of actually loving ourselves, learning that self-love, self-compassion, living in such a way that we do love ourselves? What would it look like? How would we live that out? How would it change our life? Sometimes we can get discouraged by something so profound as love and loving ourselves. But if we start to look at the end goal, if we look at what we would achieve when we do that, we can see the prize at the end. I think it can really help us to dedicate ourselves to that, to see this is something that I really want. It's not just some abstract of, oh, we should love ourselves, but there's really a life out there that we want and that we need and we deserve when we love ourselves. So what would that look like? We're going to get to that, but let's talk first about why and how we can love ourselves. That there is a mindset that will put us in that place, that will move us into this place where it's just easier to love ourselves despite our faults, despite all the flaws that we have in our life. That's usually what we focus on. We focus on our flaws, our hardships, the things that have happened to us, the things that we've done, the stuff of our life, all the ways that we're messed up, and we're all messed up in one way or another. And we start to look at that, and it's hard to find good reasons sometimes, especially when we're discouraged, especially when we've made big mistakes. It's hard to find a lot of good reasons to love ourselves. So let's start there. Why? Why would we have the idea that we can love ourselves? There is an illustration here, an allegory, a story that I've used for years. If you've been with me for a while, you've heard me say this before. If you've read my book or you've heard me speak before, you've probably heard me say this. I've said it over and over and over again. And I'm going to keep saying it because it's really important. I had someone tell me one time, yes, you use this analogy a lot, but I could hear it every day. I need to hear it every day because it's something I need to keep working on. But for those of you that are new, those of you that haven't heard me before or haven't heard this particular allegory or story before, pay attention. This one's really important. So imagine that I hold in my hand a diamond the size of a baseball, perfectly cut, perfectly clear, baseball-sized diamond. How much would that be worth? Obviously, it's priceless. You can't begin to put a price on a perfectly cut, perfectly clear, baseball-sized diamond. Now, let's imagine that I take this perfectly cut, perfectly clear, baseball-sized diamond, and I go out into a rural area. I go out into the cow pasture, and I roll it around in the muck and the mire and the cow manure. Bring the diamond back in. How much is it worth now? It's still priceless. The value of that diamond has not changed one bit if you know what it is. Now, if you don't know what it is, and you just take a look at all the muck and the mire and the cow manure, you're going to think it's just a big ball of nasty, and you're not going to want anything to do with it. But if you understand what's underneath all that, if you understand that's just the exterior stuff, that's just the stuff that happened to that diamond, that what is really there is exquisite, of infinite value, utterly priceless, then you're going to want that diamond no matter how nasty it is. You don't care. It won't make any difference what it looks like or what it smells like or anything else, because you understand the inherent value of it. Now, that's how I hope we can come to believe and come to think about ourselves, each one of us. We are inherently exquisite, of infinite value, utterly priceless. And because we live in the world we live in, we get rolled around in a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that happen. Some of them are our fault. A lot of them may be our fault. Sometimes it's other people's fault because they do stuff wrong too. Sometimes maybe it's just things that happen. And we don't really have an explanation for it, and there's no one really to blame, but it just happens. And we get rolled around in a lot of stuff in life. That doesn't change the inherent value of who we are. That doesn't change us. That's what happened to us. And the work of psychology and counseling, in its broadest terms, is to understand that we have been rolled around in a lot of stuff, but that's not who we are. That's what happened to us. And we can clean that stuff off. We can deal with that stuff. That's what therapy is for. And get down to who we are. That is exquisite diamond. That exquisite value of who we are as human beings. The work of religion, when it's done right, is to understand the inherent value of who we are and to clean up all the mess, the stuff that happens, that's our fault or other people's fault or just happens. The work of faith is to clean all that stuff off and to see the inherent value that exists in us, each one of us. The work of philosophy, for that matter, is to understand the depths of who we are and the things that happen to us. My point is, whether you're talking about faith, religion, theology, you're talking about psychology and counseling, talking about philosophy, maybe some other fields as well, they all come back to the same notion of understanding who we inherently are, the exquisite nature of our own human value, and the stuff that happens to us and how to deal with it. All that stuff is what happens to us. It is not who we are. We, as people, are inherently valuable. Now, why would I say that? What justification would I have to say that? People may come back and say, how do you know? That's just your own philosophy. That's just your own religion. That's just your own idea. Well, maybe, but let's think about that. How did we get here? Let's just ponder that for a moment. How did we, as human beings, arrive here as people with the capacity to love and to laugh and to connect? Not everything in existence has that. Not everything in existence has the ability to love and laugh and connect and to build and to grow and to learn and all the things that we have as human beings. So how do we get here? Essentially, there's one of two ways that people believe. They argue about it, and there's a lot of nuances here, but just to boil it all down, there's one of two ways that people know we got here or believe that we got here. One is there is an infinite supreme being that we may call God that created us on purpose with the capacity to love and to laugh and to connect and to build and to grow and to learn, which is unique in many ways from a lot of the other things that are in existence. That this God, this infinite being, created us to be this way, which gives us inherent value because we were created out of the infinite. Or some people would say we got here out of billions and billions of years of evolution. Infinite number of random events took place to the point we evolved as human beings, different from other places or things of existence, with the capacity to love and to laugh and to connect and to build and to grow and to learn. Now, whether you believe in the infinite God that created us or the infinite number of random events that happened for us to evolve, whichever one you might believe in whatever nuance you might believe it, both of those are pretty incredible origin stories. Either one you want to believe in. Of course, I have my own beliefs. You have yours. I want to respect that. And I hope you respect mine. But wherever you come down on that, that's an amazing origin story. We are of value regardless of which road you take to believe we got here. We are from the infinite, and we evolved differently or were created differently than other things. We have different value that is inherent to who we are as human beings. Now, if we start to understand that, and yes, we'll continue to argue about the origin of humanity. That's fine. We can argue about that. But if we understand the incredible nature, regardless of where you come from on that, of our origin, of who we are, there is an infinite value in just who we are. And knowing that value, starting there, and understanding that all the other stuff is what happened to us, that who we are is of infinite value. And yes, we get rolled around in the muck and the mire and the cow manure in this world for any number of reasons, some of which are our fault, but that's stuff that happens to us. It's not who we are. Now, what's going to happen if we buy into this? What's going to happen if we get this and start living this out and understanding our own value? Let's get to the end game. What does that bring? There's a few things. One is you become immune to criticism. What are they going to criticize? Somebody comes to you and says, you did this wrong. Okay. We got a few things to understand about that. One is, are they criticizing that perfect, exquisite diamond of who we are? Well, that'd be absurd. How dumb is that? That just shows that they don't know what they're talking about. If they are criticizing the exquisite nature of who we actually are, that's absurd. What they're criticizing is what we did. Well, we are flawed. We might have done something wrong. And if we did something wrong, the great thing is we can change it. If something is actually your fault, congratulations. Now you have an easy road because now you can change it. That might be okay. It's not easy. Not all the time. But it's a lot easier than changing other people. You changing other people is impossible. And so if something is actually your fault, your responsibility, and somebody criticizes it, okay, yeah, maybe you feel a little guilty about that. But that guilt is there just to signal you to make some changes. And if it's your fault, you get to change it. If it's your responsibility, if it's something you did that's within your power, you get to change it. You get to fix it. Done. If it's not something you can fix, if it's out of your power, it's just something that happened to you. If it's something that you don't control, it's something that happened to you. You'll have to deal with it in some way, but it's still not who you are. You see what I'm saying here? Somebody can criticize something about what you did, but that's not criticizing you if you understand who you are. They may be criticizing the muck and the mire and the cow manure. All right, we're not fond of that either. That's not anything that we enjoy either. We agree with them on that. If they're criticizing that exterior, that mess, that stuff, even the stuff that's our fault, well, hey, we're in agreement. We don't have to be mad at that person for criticizing that. We don't like that either. We're trying to clean that up. That's what faith is. That's what psychology is. That's what counseling is. That's what philosophy is cleaning that stuff up. That person may actually be helping you clean that stuff up. But we don't have to take it personally because it's not who we are. We are immune from criticism. They're just agreeing with our exterior flaws of stuff that's been done to us or things that we did wrong when they criticize us, and we can fix it. And if we can't fix it, it's just something we have to deal with, but it's not who we are. If they're criticizing us as a person, the inherent value of us, well, they clearly don't know what they're talking about. They don't have an understanding of who we are, or for that matter, who they are. When we understand this, we cannot take criticism so personally. It's just part of the journey. It's part of cleaning up all that mess on the outside. And other people might help us understand the mess that is on the outside and might be part of helping us clean it. And if they're criticizing who we are, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand what love is. They don't understand the inherent value of who we are. Secondly, it becomes a lot less important whether people like you or not. So many times we get wrapped up in what we can achieve in order to please other people. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't achieve things because we all have talents and we should thrive in those talents and we should do what we do and enjoy doing it and contribute to the world as best we can to the betterment of the world through our own talents. And that can come through our job and a number of other ways for that matter. But there's just some people that aren't going to like us. Okay, the reason they don't like us is because we have certain flaws or we have certain aspects of ourselves, that muck and the mire and the cow manure that they look at and they just don't like. Well, okay, fine. We don't like that either. We're working on that. They have the choice to not like that. If they just don't like who we are as a person of value, then they don't understand life. They don't understand love. They don't understand who we are. They don't understand our worthiness, and they probably don't understand their own. And so this people pleasing that we get so caught up in, this culture of achievement that's always jumping through everyone's hoops, becomes kind of irrelevant. That we want to be true to ourselves and we want to serve other people to make the world a better place. Are we going to accomplish that all the time? No. Is it going to please everybody all the time? No. A lot of that's going to be their issue. And that doesn't make them a bad person either. That's their muck and mire and cow manure. That's their issues. That doesn't make them a bad person either. It does away with these ideas that we have to hate that other group or that they're going to hate us. That's immaturity. That's not understanding. That's an ignorance of not understanding what love is and what life is about. And so we don't have to go through all this people pleasing to try to accomplish everything. We are already worthy. And if people can't see that, it's because they're not there yet. And it's kind of our duty to see it in them, to see their inherent value, to see despite their flaws and despite their criticisms and dislike of us for whatever reason, that we'll see their value anyway. That takes us a long way into growing as human beings. This idea also affects when people mistreat you. That's different than just not liking you. Sometimes people don't like you and they sort of dismiss you, they walk away, they have nothing to do with you. That's their choice. But when people actively mistreat you, they abuse you. When we understand our inherent value, we have no problem standing up for ourselves and setting boundaries. If you struggle to set boundaries in your life, if you struggle to set that boundary so that people are not abusing you, to distance yourself or even end relationships, is because you don't understand your own value, most likely. Could be other causes as well. But one of them is you don't understand that exquisite nature of who you are. That somehow you've convinced yourself you deserve this. Maybe because of some things you've done, mistakes you've made. Maybe because you've been told that since you were a child, any number of reasons. But when you allow yourself to be abused and mistreated, it's because, in part at least, you don't understand who you are. You don't understand that you were not put in this world to be abused. No one was. Because we are of that inherent value, because we are that exquisite diamond. Criticism is different. That's not about us. That's about what we did. People can criticize that. But when they mistreat us, when the people are toxic and abusive towards us, if we understand our value, we have no problem setting those boundaries. We have no problem setting boundaries to distance or even eliminate relationships. Not every relationship needs to continue. Every relationship can theoretically heal if people want to practice the components of love and treat each other in a manner of love. But in reality, some people aren't going to do that. And every relationship does not have to continue. When we understand our value, we know we deserve relationships that value us, and we give that back as well. When we understand this, when we get to this end game, when we treat ourselves with the value we deserve, we become immune to criticism because that's just a work in progress. That's fine. They may be right. We can change it. They may be wrong because they're flawed too. That's okay. They can be wrong. It doesn't have to be anything that we get caught up in. We all make mistakes. That's a work in progress, but it's what we do. It's not who we are. If people don't like us, that's okay. They obviously just don't know us. They don't know our exquisite value yet. And that's okay. They don't have to. We do not have to people please. We don't have to jump through hoops. We serve people in order to make the world a better place and to live out our own value in life. And if people mistreat us, when we understand our value, when we love ourselves, when we have compassion for ourselves, we have no problem setting boundaries to understand we deserve to be treated in a good way. And we're going to do that for others as well because they deserve that, even though they have a lot of flaws too. And so we are going to set those boundaries and even end relationships if we have to, because not every relationship has to continue. If we're going to have healthy ones, we have to have the courage to get some unhealthy ones out of our life sometimes in order to have the relationships of health and happiness and thriving that we actually deserve. This is the place we want to get to. This is the place we want to get to where we're not always falling apart because of criticism. We're not always trying to get everybody to like us all the time and people please. We're not always trying to deal with the toxicity and the abuse and the mistreatment. When we love ourselves, all these things sort of begin to fall into place. We know how to take criticism. We don't have to please everyone. We know how to set boundaries. All that comes from a place of self-love. And that happens when we understand our inherent value just in who we are and all the stuff that we do and has happened to us. That's a work in progress. We need to work on that, sure. It's a work in progress. It all comes down to loving ourselves. We get this part, a lot of things begin to fall in place. And that's my thoughts this week as we are on this journey, building the relationships that we want and need, even with ourselves, especially with ourselves. So I hope you'll go to my website, markahicks.com. There's easy links there to buy my book, Learning Love, Building a Life That Matters, and Healthy Relationships That Last. Also, take some time to look around the website. There's a lot of other really good stuff there as well. I want to thank my producer, Abby Graves of Abby Graves Productions, and I want to thank all of you for listening today. Until next week, love well, everyone.